the 14th edition of Pecha Kucha Night, Bermuda. Yeah, 3 years. 3 years we've been doing this, and thank you for coming out today in such a large crowd here. We've got 8 wonderful presenters here who are nervous but excited to be presenting tonight. Without further ado, we will start with our first presenter. So we're going to have Cheryl present, and then we're going to have questions and answer after Cheryl. Hastings, come on up.
Okay, thank you. Quick question. What's happening here? Okay, yeah, it does look fun, doesn't it? Okay, play. I'd like to talk to you about some of my thoughts about play and my experiences using play therapy. Okay, I've got some slides of children's work in my sessions to show you. Plato said, you can discover more about a person in an hour of play than in a year of conversation. Okay, play is a wonderfully expressive medium and essential to a child's development. And United Nations proclaims play as a universal right of childhood. So much is learnt through play. There are many benefits. There's social, problem-solving, academic, creative, cognitive, emotional. I'm going to look at therapeutic benefits, looking at non-directive, child-led play therapy. This is a quote here from Gary Landreth. He says, toys are children's words and play is their language. This highlights how children use play to communicate. Okay, to play out situations, to organize their ideas, and then to gain a sense of control. Play is very powerful. So why play therapy? Okay, so I've already said play is a way that children communicate. Okay, it's a way they can share their ideas. It's a natural way for them to understand their muddled feelings and their worries. Play therapy can increase confidence, promote positive self-esteem, build resilience, and also offer the child coping strategies. Play is not just the child's language, but it's also the brain's language. Play forms vital neuroconnections which strengthen resilience. Play has a way of untangling the brain pathways that can cause children distress. Also, it can make healthy new connections for the child. Virginia Axline is considered one of the pioneers of play therapy. She took Carl Rogers' work, which is non-directive, client-centered work, to play therapy. This is a quote, and she says, non-directive therapy grants the individual the permissiveness to be himself. Modern non-directive play therapy is based on Virginia Axline's 8 principles, which you can see here. Okay? If a therapist follows these rules, then it gives the child a safe space where they can gain awareness, self-awareness, and they can explore their feelings and their worries. You can see it's child-focused and child-led. So who benefits? Almost anyone can benefit, no matter their age, from play therapy, though it's especially beneficial to children aged between 3 and 12 years old, children who need some sort of extra emotional support, whether that's due to illness, anxiety, grief, trauma, neglect, learning difficulties, challenges, the list is endless. I use Goodman's Strength and Difficulties Questionnaire to gather information on the child's behaviour. This gives me data so I can objectively measure the success of my intervention. So I can look at the results before and after the therapy. So I can see the changes noted by the parent, the child, and the teacher. So is play therapy right for your child? Have they had a difficult situation to deal with? Are they finding it tricky to cope? Have they got low self-esteem? Well, play therapy is proven beneficial to many children dealing with psychological, behavioural, or developmental issues. Okay, here's some examples of work from my sessions with the children. There's a sync here which was after a child had seen her birth mother, she'd been in care for a few months. A powerful sand tray from a girl who was a selective mute. A painting from a child who found it really difficult to trust others. A divided sand tray from a boy who'd been involved in a car accident. A drawing from a child in a complex divided family. You can see the sand tray from a boy who was now finding school a little bit easier. A foam and paint picture from a girl who'd witnessed domestic abuse, and a sand tray from a girl we'll call Ray. She was referred to me due to her wetting herself at home and at school. She was a refugee and her parents were separated. In the first session with Ray, she mainly engaged in tactile play, which is very, very normal for her referral and her age. She used the wet clay and she used the sand. She then drew a heart and she divided the heart with sequins. She'd also drawn a heart on her questionnaire, you can see there. And again, this one she had divided up. In the next session, Ray went back to the heart, she added some more sequins and she did some colouring in. Then she built a sand castle, decorated that with marbles and got out the dolls. She did gentle role play, she fed them, looked after them and put them to bed. She ended the session using the shop till, so there was some more role play. As Ray's sessions continued, her creative work repeatedly had holes in it and areas left blank, and her tactile work spilled out over the edges of her tray and her boundaries. She did also explore other parts of the room. She used puppets, musical instruments, dressing up, and the role play toys. In session 6, Ray placed 4 ponies in the sand tray. She put them in pairs and she said they were running to each other. This running to each other gives a sense of hope, of bridging the divide. At this point in her therapy, Ray's wetting had stopped and also her emotional scores had lowered. Messy play seemed quite important to Ray's process, as you can see. Aldridge suggests that messy play helps get the messy feeling from inside out. And that creates a possibility for change and transformation for the child. You can see that she used a messy paint mix that she'd made to cover her mask. And that gives a sense of a stronger self for Ray. This is a picture of Ray in her final session. She'd made a new mask. She'd remained dry at this point. She was no longer wetting herself in home or at school. Her parents said that she was feeling less anxious, she seemed less anxious, making new friends. Her emotional scores had lowered. My data from Goodman's Strength and Difficulties questionnaire shows that every child I've worked with has had improvements. So in summary, play therapy uses children's natural medium to communicate, and it promotes resilience and personal growth. Play therapy offers care and support for children so their brilliance can shine. I can offer play therapy as part of Kaleidoscope Arts Foundation. Thank you.
How did you get into play therapy?
Thank you, that's a good question. I was an art teacher to start with, and I worked with a lot of children I could see had other needs. I wanted to work with them creatively, and it was actually my mother-in-law who suggested looking into play therapy. So I then went off and started my studies, and 5 years later I came out the other end, and luckily there was a wonderful primary school really close to me who were forward-thinking, and they grabbed me, we had a wonderful partnership together. So same thing hopefully going to happen with Kaleidoscope now. Thank you.
What would you say, or why would you say does it work better for kids than adults, 12-year-olds and up?
Well, it can work for anyone. Adults, it can be just as well received as long as maybe you readdress it as creative therapy rather than play. The younger children tend to be quite receptive because that's that, like I say, it's their natural medium. They're still used to playing all the time at home and at work. And their results can be quite quick, whereas an adult, maybe it'll take them longer to get into that space. But yes, it's just as effective. I know lots of people who work with learning difficulties, adults, and yes, it's very effective. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.